In nearly all religions, there is a figure who presides, officiates, and most especially offers worship on behalf of the people, one who is set apart in order to be a mediator between God and people. These cult figures foreshadow, albeit in a primitive way, the priesthood of the eternal priest, Jesus Christ. The Lord wished that his priesthood, by which he offered the sacrifice for the redemption of the human race, be continued after he rose again and ascended to his Father. He shared this priesthood with his closest followers, his apostles, to whom he gave the command to hand on this priestly dignity within the church. Happy Easter, everyone. My name is Father Jacob Rouse, and I'm the pastor of Notre Dame Parish in Cresco, Iowa. Let's continue with our discussion about sacraments. Today we will touch on one of the sacraments of vocation, which is holy orders or priesthood, and marriage. We'll get to marriage later. This will probably be a two-part video because there's a lot to pack in about priesthood itself. So since the beginning of time, all ancient and pagan civilizations and cultures have many things in common, but one of them being that blood and flesh must be offered to appease the gods and atone for the transgressions of mankind, which are sins. This can take the form of animal sacrifice, giving one of the best of your flock, of your livelihood, which would be an ox or a donkey or a lamb or something, a scapegoat where you cast all the sins upon one goat and then send it out in the desert, or in some cultures and societies, a human sacrifice. So blood and flesh must be paid. So in ancient Judaism, in the books of Exodus and Numbers and Leviticus, there was a special holy order set aside to stand in the breach between God and man, to offer sacrifice and reconcile the two. That's the Old Testament. Now we have Jesus, who is the high priest, who is the prophet, the priest, and the king, and he comes and he offers the blood and sacrifice with his own blood and flesh. Whereas before it was the priest doing using someone or something else's blood and flesh to pay the price. But Jesus comes and changes the whole thing and turns it on its head and then fulfills it by saying that no more animals, no more humans. Not the Jews ever did humans, but we are going to have me be the sacrifice. And that's part of the great servant leadership of Christ. So this continues onward. So this happened in the Old Testament, the priesthood, the Levites, and then it became a priestly caste, a priestly order, specially anointed and laid on of hands. Remember, anointing comes from a word that means to smear with oil and to send out, to initiate, to be either a priest, a prophet, or a king. And since Jesus is all of those, every single time we are anointed, in confirmation, in priesthood, and in baptism, we are sent out to be priest, prophet, and king. So, current modern times, contemporary times today, the bishop lays his hands on a candidate for priesthood, anoints him with oil, and then the priest promises to teach, to preach, to sacrifice, and to pray for and on behalf of his people. So that's one of the reasons I started doing videos and posts and stuff, is that, like, well, I was ordained to teach and preach, so I better get going on it. So that's kind of how I started doing videos and different posts and stuff. The priesthood of Christ is based on the mystery of the incarnation. Remember, the incarnation is incarnate, God becoming man, flesh, becoming meat, incarne. Carne is Latin and Spanish for meat. In his own person, Christ unites God and man, which is the essence of the sacerdotal office. Christ is at one and the same time a transcendent and a compassionate high priest, because we hear in Hebrews that he knows everything that we've been through, whereas priests of the Old Testament were kept separate from the people. The ones who were offering sacrifice, the ones who were bridging the gap between God and man, were held up high and kept at an arm's length because they were so holy. But Christ comes and he's an incarnation of God, and he gets down and dirty and shares everything with us, from scrapes and bruises to fevers and diarrhea, except sin. So we do not have a high priest that is unsympathetic with our position and our condition. So, and then there's 3 orders of priesthood. There's 3 levels of priesthood. So my father, Deacon Dan Rouse, is in the diakoni, which is the ministers. Those are deacons. The word diakoni means to serve. I am in the presbyteroi. These are the elders, the priests. And even though I'm not an elder, by my office and order, I am kind of an elder in this community. And then the highest form of priesthood, the highest level of priesthood, is the episcopi, which is the overseer, and that's the bishop. So bishop, priests, and deacons. There are 3 orders of priesthood, of the priestly caste, and we continue to celebrate and look to them to offer sacrifice, guidance, leadership, teaching, and preaching for how the church is going to go forward. So I think that's enough for right now. Next time we'll talk about celibacy and the male priesthood and all that stuff, and rights to... So I hope this is a great introduction to the sacrament of holy orders, which is one of the sacraments of vocation. And I'll see you next time. So just like I do at Mass before the Eucharist, go wash your hands.